Welcome to Understanding the Unhoused. My name is Joshua. Through a series of interviews with individuals who are experiencing homelessness, my intention with this podcast is to increase compassion and empathy for the unhoused. When people see an unhoused individual, they can feel fear, anger, apathy, sometimes all three. My hope is after hearing their stories, hearing what it's like for them on a day-to-day basis, it will make it clearer that these are just people. People who, through a combination of bad luck, bad choices, and, let's be honest, a broken system, have found themselves without a roof over their heads. Okay, enough ado. Shevvy reached out after reading my Reddit post to tell his story. We got on the phone a couple of weeks ago, and he let me know about his struggles with alcoholism, drug addiction, and various mental health issues. He is currently in one of the best situations he's been in and is feeling like he's on his way out. He did reach out to me a few days after the interview to let me know that he lost his job, but he's still feeling optimistic that things are going to turn around for him. It's never easy to pull yourself out of homelessness, especially when you have so many things working against you, but as his story will show, a little bit of peace and clarity can go a very long way. Please enjoy the interview. Shevvy, thank you for talking to me. Tell me what your current situation is, if you don't mind.
I'm actually grateful that you're talking to me. I first became unhoused on January 24th, 2023. Right now, I'm in the most environmentally safe situation I've been in since. For the past almost 2 whole months now, me and my same-sex partner have thrived in a 6-person dome tent. It's very nice. We're in a location behind a public retail store that the local police officers have stated they're okay with us being here, which is
nice.
That's unheard of.
Very uncommon.
About a month ago, I got employed. I work 3 days a week as a dishwasher. I can take public transportation there and back. And so more needs of mine have been met than in a long time because if we get into my backstory, you'll hear some legit despair. So, but right now, I have a case manager, and I actually feel like I'm slowly but surely working my way towards the light at the end of that tunnel after almost 2 years of being unhoused, where a lot of it's on the street.
And where are you specifically?
I'm in Brunswick, Maine. I spent most of my unhoused days in Augusta, which is the capital of Maine. And Augusta is a drug cesspool. I overdosed over 5 times there. Mental illness is I learned that I'd say 8 out of 10 homeless people there are very schizophrenic. And Brunswick, the people here are a bit, they tend to have their noses higher in the air, but at least on the surface, they're more polite.
Okay, that's good. And Can you talk about the circumstances that led you to be unhoused in the first place?
Yeah. Well, I had my apartment for about 4 years. I used to go to a methadone clinic, and I stopped even the recovery medications in July 2018, and I had a couple relapses, and I had an overdose, and my kids were taken away from me in May 2021, and I broke up with my relationship. And that's when I got with another man, and we started smoking a lot of meth. And people like to say that's what was it, but I am more apt to say that, yes, it may have contributed, but it was a obsessive, unrequited love, a trauma bond. It was a very toxic relationship dynamic that just destroyed me from the inside out. I started getting late to work, and they docked my hours. I lost my voucher for losing my kids. But then I invited my drug dealer to live with me. And my drug dealer, so it gets dark. So he had called and stated that during a verbal argument with my on and off again partner, stated there was a physical assault, which there was not. I was falsely charged with domestic violence assault felony, banned from being in my own apartment. I've had legal shit before, but this one I was innocent of. And so, needless to say, I managed to get my shit out after, though I wasn't legally allowed to be there. And it actually, on the 24th, was legally evicted because I wasn't paying rent. So my apartment was more or less capitulated out of me. This guy was like antisocial personality. He was a psychopath, but he was good at what he did. It shocked the hell out of me, and that was ultimately it. And I was falling behind in rent regardless still.
So you've been unhoused since January of 23. What kind of things were you able to do to prepare for that, if any?
So when I first became unhoused, my ex's car I utilized, and I stayed at my mom's about 30 miles down. But then I kind of saved on my tax returns off the EIC, and I got some extra money, and I stayed at hotel rooms for a couple months. I started having to stay overnight at the local warming center. I still remember my first day actually on the street, and I began to dissociate pretty hard. And many of those days, sometimes weeks at a time, from March of 2023 up until the following autumn, I would just wander. I was dissociating. They had the warming center, which is a temporary overnight shelter for anybody. No stipulations, no drug screens. They were a godsend. But so sometimes I would get the help of a former neighbor of mine. I used to live in an apartment complex, but I could stay there for a few days before it was unwelcome. And I would sleep at the park, but then they would establish this 11 p.m. curfew at the park. I had nights where I slept in a porta potty. I had nights where I slept underneath some staging that was left behind from a festival at the park. I had nights where I slept in some bushes, passed out from sheer exhaustion outside of the Department of Fisheries and Wildlife in Augusta, all over the place. Be it for mental health or substance use. My alcoholism kicked in hard, and it was just here and there and everywhere. Once every 2 months or so, I'd be granted a night or two at my mom's downstate.
Did you have any experience in shelters? Is that
No,
a possibility?
See, in Augusta, their rule was that there was bi-weekly, at least weekly urine drug screens, and this included for marijuana, alcohol, and even if I had the willing to do it, the whole principle of having to live with that stipulation of you must be sober despite any other
despite all the things you're going through, you have to be sober for this to work. Yeah,
I feel like that is just that's just I don't want to say manipulative, but it's a very cruel way of saying we're going to give you shelter, but you have to be sober at all costs. Now, it's like, I'm sorry, it's me. I don't like being controlled in that way, and I would rather have faith on the streets. I got along well with most people on the streets. I was just terrified of the police being on bail for that charge. I definitely got picked up a few times, but it was more or less, and to this day now I even feel it, I really enjoy not having a set of rules over my head, which I live by or face consequences.
Speaking up to more recent times, have you noticed any changes in how you're being treated out there since the Supreme Court ruling in July? So basically, they gave the police the permission to just arrest homeless people for being homeless.
When you're homeless, your basic human body functions, sleeping, urinating, become illegal in many ways. Absolutely. Yeah. Switching from Augusta to Brunswick last December was a big culture shift. People, homelessness is not popular down here in Augusta. It's a crisis. So, I kind of traded I chose to be a sore thumb and be a stigma, treated better rather than be around many others like me, but be treated by society in a quite overtly cruel way. Yeah, so it's just a bit different, but there are still places though where Adam's here. Adam, you can remember any times where we've basically been told we can't be places just because of the way we look. A big thing about it was baggage.
Laundromat, Cumberland Farms, a lot of places we were going, we were told we couldn't be there for more than a few minutes.
Yeah, we were told we can't stay in the laundromat overnight in February except to do our own laundry.
That was definitely a question I wanted to go by. How do you deal with the winter out there?
Last winter, I was lucky enough to stay 3 weeks or so at my mom's, but they had just for the first time opened the quote unquote warming center in Brunswick, which is they give you blankets to sleep on the floor. But this year things are lining up better. We have this nice tent and we have propane powered Mr. Heater. And I say we have the cheapest rent with the most expensive heating, and we have a plethora of blankets. So I'm optimistic, and I utilize things like hot hands. You know, if you dress the part, if you layer up, more or less, you can be okay. And there's two of us, so shared bodily warmth. But
that helps. Yeah.
Things libraries help. Having certain convenience stores that have like a seating area or a Dunkin' where they don't discriminate can help. You kind of have to pace yourself. You can't be there for too long. It's an image issue for them. But you go where you must go, and you kind of stay outside too awfully long and make sure your gloves are warm before you put them on, and wear your thick socks. And a lot of them are donations. Either that or I try to work. I go sporadic crazy about it, but I do try to build up money, and I try to do the best I can. Yeah.
Now you had said in our communications that you feel like you're on your way out of your situation. Can you talk about that?
It started when I got out of that rehab. We're talking between July 7th and September 26th, where I had not much happening, but a long period to clear my brain. I had already been on the waiting list for the local kind of mental health, etc. resource thing. I am now set up with a medication psychiatrist that includes my Suboxone, recovery meds, and I now have a case manager. I was able to get a job that I basically want with hours low enough to keep my main care, but I'm eligible for a Shelter Plus Care voucher when it comes up. The requirements of that are dual diagnoses, substance use disorder, and a mental health disorder. I have CPTSD, borderline personality disorder, ADHD, OCD, and many of the substance disorders. So I qualify for that. And being homeless, my expectations, or at least my hopes, are that I will be a bit higher up on the list, maybe. So my case manager, I was on the waiting list for 5 months. I guess somehow I finally got in that mindset where I kind of unconsciously deviated from the stagnant loop that you're in. And I somehow managed to think, I have things I can sign up for that will help me. And for some reason, when you're homeless on the streets, you don't think of these things. Like, if they do, it's a flutter of a thought where you think, yeah, but I don't know how to do that. And you did before, but somehow you just get out of it. But being in this relationship really helped, honestly. The loneliness is something that eats from the inside out. And this 10 years gotten some environmental safety. So all these little factors kind of added up, and I think I'm making the right choices. I held down my job for a month now. I used to do this. I used to have kids. I used to have a family.
And actually, that was another question I had. You said you have kids. How old are they? Are they aware of your situation? Like,
I have a 10-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter. They live one town over, but when I was released from the recovery center, their mother, who her and I are estranged, she says, "You got in trouble one more time, you are indefinitely not seeing your children." Ouch. That devastated, because I used to be more or less a single father. I had my struggles, but I certainly consider myself somebody who was a very loving father with a lot of attention and priority placed on my kids. And so I feel like eventually that will be the final piece of the puzzle, but it's a goal. It's a solid, crystallized goal that keeps me going, is to hopefully have my son back one day.
Good.
I guess if I have like this personal desire, this incentive that is very meaningful to me as an individual.
That makes a lot of sense.
Now, like I said, it would be hard getting help with the background check thing, but the talks about the crisis and shit are finally becoming just mainstream enough that maybe there's some lax on the rules here nowadays. I don't think.
I hope things for you coalesce before January, because I feel like things are going to get pretty nasty.
Yeah. Well, days are taking by year and one day at a time.
Yeah. What, since you've been out there on the streets, what have you experienced on the positive side? Like, can you talk about experience where people have actually lifted your spirits and helped you out and
So
Made
in
give you some
Augusta,
faith in humanity. Mm-hmm.
in Augusta, I have met some of the most this depraved and this beaten down people I ever met in my life. But I had found more of a sense of familial community there than I ever had in my life. You know, people would sometimes fuck each other over, but if you're one of the ones I strive to be that actually still, you know, withheld values of empathy and compassion and humanitarianism. So, like, I actually developed some very powerful connections there that I had failed to develop previously in my life with more superficial friendships. I believe that nothing connects human beings, nothing builds a stronger bond than going through suffering together.
Yeah.
And, you know, these are people where at times we save each other's asses, sometimes literally. I mean, I overdosed, I died up there, and I had people who I owe my life to, and vice versa. And, you know, these are people where they rip each other off. They would, that's the name of the game sometimes. They would, but at the same time, I forgive them because I understand the nature of the beast, and, these are people that have given me a tent to sleep in, so that have covered my ass in certain ways to avoid getting another unfortunate arrest. People with whom I've actually shared some of my relationship traumas that have led me up there and who empathize with me. And there's just more genuine, authentic, like, understanding of each other's traumas than I had experienced prior. So despite the mental illness, there are some people who are in house who truly do try their very best to live up to positive and good values. And it's a breath of fresh air. Maine is bad, but it's still Maine. So people aren't necessarily murderers, or I don't know. I don't know what it's like anywhere else, but people up here they're very damaged. They're internally damaged, but they're not monsters. Some of them are. I've developed a lot of emotional resilience and a lot of insight and intuition, and I can read things and sense things in people. I can see things that I never would have been able to have comprehended prior. And when somebody is not genuine about something, even if they say it with all their heart, I can tell nowadays. I can absolutely tell if somebody's just saying something for image. And
what do you wish were being done differently in the system?
thank you for asking that. What really needs to be done is there are certain resources that the unhoused need that people don't understand. They need a place to shower. They need a place to wash their clothes. They need peer-to-peer support. Some people just need somebody to fucking talk to. Everybody's homeless for a reason. When you're homeless, you have undoubtedly gone through some, or even a plethora of traumas, some series of events that have just destroyed you from the inside out. And so I seem to be one of those guys where somehow they felt comfortable talking to me about them, and I saw it help them. So they need a place to feel like a human being again. That means look nice, you know, like wash their dishes, even eat some decent food, cook food, but not feel as if they're being talked to as if we're a child or a nuisance or somebody of a lower, you know, the lowest standing. But also somebody to just say, "What's up? Talk to me," you know. Like somebody who they can trust. And mental health is something I was big into before I was homeless. I did my own little 2-bit podcast when I tried. But homeless people need just a peer support that they can trust. Somebody who can be there for them to vent and bitch about whatever happened to them and listen to them empathetic. That's something that I honestly had wanted to do. You see, here in Brunswick, they have this place called the Gathering Place. Started out as a place for low income, etc. And somehow the senior citizen class with their cars and their houses have used this as their hangout, and now they have signs discouraging people with addiction to even come in. So they kind of very straight for their own purpose. What is this here? So like people feel very alienated. So they had a place where they could literally feel like you're okay here, like, and most basic need, charge your devices, because that's a big one. Washing clothes is hard. Showering. To get to a nearest shower, it is a 45 to 50 minute walk each way to the free shower at the rec center. Yeah, so like I go twice a week. I shower, and that's not like me before, but I just have to suck it up. And so if people could have a place to go where they can get those simple, basic human, the human needs that most people had never even thought about the concept of taking for granted.
I feel like people that in your situation that are like trying to make their way out, figure out if you can give back to that community. That's the sort of thing that I've always seen help. It's always lived experience that gives the most empathy.
I've had my nights where I've looked it up online, and my main stonewall I find is that there doesn't seem to be an opening. Like, so speakers, for example, I've done some public speaking, but most speaker events, they have their designated public speakers. They don't actually want the unhoused about the unhoused. They want reverend or somebody with notoriety, somebody with a
or
status.
Letters after their name or something. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, you know, obviously anybody would know that wisdom comes from experience. So if you want to get the best words, you're somebody who's actually lived through the shit. But so those who are actually homeless in our house, those few of us who have that drive and that intellect, and we say we have this altruistic nature, we are shut out because they say no, you're not somebody who would benefit our organization. Or even so, it's like we're just not given an outlet. So this interview right now, for example, is just phenomenal for me. I'm so grateful for you.
No, thank you. I mean that was the thing. I just a quick aside. When I decided to do this, I went out and just looked on, the podcasting services to see what other people were doing for podcasts around the homeless. And almost always it was just people talking to experts and professors and, civil leaders and things. And that's great, but that's not the story.
They're talking to those who have made it an occupation or a field of study.
And not the people that have actually experienced it, that have been out there. I'm like, that's the people that I would want to hear from, because those are the people that actually know what it's like, not experts in things.
Gained from a textbook, but wisdom can only be gained from experience, and emotional resilience can only be gained from prolonged adversity or suffering. Those who have experienced it, those are the ones who have had the spiritual awakening, hopefully, and they're the ones who actually can have put their hearts in the right place. But the mental health thing still gets in the way. They have all these barriers, and so stigma, it goes back. I heard it goes back to an old Latin term meaning to discriminate. And I always say, what's worse than a drug user? I say the stigma, and it's the stigma about the unhoused. Nobody wants to hear about them because they're still being seen as this unwanted presence, and they think, who are these professionals that will solve this problem? Well, no, they're not just going to solve it. It's about acceptance. It's about humility and about compassion, altruism, and more or less saying that these are human beings who deserve to live a life like anybody else does. And not about the money or the programs. It's about saying, I had some idea a while back. It would never pan out, but it was saying, if you can convince a property owner, albeit personal or government, to designate a 10 by 20 plot of land and build the most rudimentary of structures into these little, say a little composite board, sheet metal, insulation, tarpaulin roof. Okay, if you can give them a 10 by 7 foot of space, that safety right there is the beginning. That is a groundwork foundation. For them to say, okay, I feel competent environment, I feel environmentally safe, somebody cared about me. Now I have a incentive to get sober. Now I have a incentive to get a job.
Exactly.
I feel good enough and proud enough to get housing.
That's the housing first model. I mean, that's just the model that a lot of organizations are run on, which is people can't be helped and can't help themselves unless they feel safe, unless they have a place that they can go to and feel comfortable and relaxed and be able to think straight. And you can't do that when you sleep out on the streets. That's all there is to it.
The primary source, the core of all the mental issues being unhoused is a perpetual series of environmental unsafety. So this is the law or from the elements or just from society. The shame that's inflicted upon you. Nowhere feels safe. I remember I always prided myself on being able to use stimulants, and I never got psychosis paranoia. After a while, I remember finding myself walking around in the middle of a shopping plaza in Bath with absolutely no threat, and I'm just convinced the cops are after me because I was on probation. And it was because I had nowhere to go that was safe. And being where I am now, with an officer saying, well, you keep it clean, don't litter like the rest of them, they do litter. I said, wow. And I've been here for 2 months, and I've made this place homey. I've customized it. Me and my partner, we have
nice.
it's kind of nice. And so this has given me the space in my head. It's freed up that space. That's just taken up with all the worries and this and that. I can say, okay, so now I'm actually focusing on what I should probably do next.
So what advice would you give to someone who is either facing homelessness or about to be homeless? What steps or advice would you give?
Somebody that's about to be homeless, the best advice I can give would be to have no expectations, develop your emotional armor, and build that armor hard. Like build it like instead of Iron Maiden. Like you need to be like resilient before you're resilient. Because the worst of the worst can and may will happen to you. The best advice I can give to somebody that's just becoming homeless, or that is homeless, is I can say, remember your values. Remember who you are, because who you were is not who you were. You still are that person. Whatever person you were, you thought you were when life was good, you're still there. And you're going to start to feel as if you're not that, because when you find yourself walking on the streets aimlessly for a few days, you start to forget even like what you listen to for music sometimes. Remember yourself. Journal. I would take my phone and download a free app called Audio Recorder. It's a tiny little app, and I can record little audio diaries. I look back on it and say, man, I was doing bad that day, or man, I was doing good that day. And it gives you that perspective because my memory started being impaired. Be prepared to be treated like you're not a human being. So it seems impossible, but to maintain your inner sense of self-respect. Like self-love is a dramatic journey that takes time to not ever metaphorically to get through. But to say that to know that you once had it, you can get there again, and you're gonna feel like the system is beating you down. You're gonna feel as if you're being stonewalled around the corner. But keep your overall destination at heart. And I lost it so many times. June of last year, I stayed up for 3 days. I was rejected by the only 3 people who talked as they were, who called me friends. I called friends, and I intentionally, nasally, did enough fentanyl to kill myself 7 times over, and I tried to. And I didn't want to live, and I came back, and I dissociated for about 2 weeks. I think I slept for 3 or 4 days straight, and I remember another time I overdosed with Narcan. A friend CPR'd me back to life. I broke 3 ribs, and when I healed from those ribs, I remember feeling like I woke up from a 2 or 3 months long nap. But then I went back into it again. I went back into it, and you don't notice it happening. You just be ready for anything, but have something reminding you of who you are.
Hi again. Thanks for listening. If you know of any unhoused individuals that would like to be interviewed, or you would like to submit an interview yourself, please reach out to us through the website, understandingtheunhoused.org. Click on the contact button, send us a quick message. We'll get back to you as soon as we can and get things moving. Also, while on the site, if you're feeling generous, please click on the donate button. There is a very low overhead for this podcast, but there are costs involved. Thanks again for listening. I hope after hearing these stories, you will have a little more compassion, a little more empathy, and a better understanding of the unhoused.